Each week, we welcome to our NfG stage one of our highly talented members or special guests with something designed to help you and your business. Today's speaker began pulling apart computers in the early 1980s. Thankfully, he instinctively also knew how to put them back together again. His career actually began in 1986, working on computers like Commodores, Ataris, and Spectrums, while they were current long before some of them were relegated to museums. Yet, as a hardware engineer for over 2 decades, he also dabbled in software and became a developer many years later. Noticing that the world was adopting WordPress, the website technology that powers an astonishing 500 million websites, around 1/3 of all websites in existence, his work in helping others with their sites soon highlighted an important niche. What happens when other developers abandon their plugins or don't offer support? Coming to the rescue and being a generous individual too. Always time for other NfG fellow members. He works with many clients to uncover the clashes in code and the dangers of disjointed data, to help unearth the reasons why so many websites grind to their knees when the right TLC could have them serving their small business owners once again. Today, with a talk focused on taming the to-dos of technology, we bring to you Sean Billings. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for that introduction. I had to listen twice to make sure it was all about me. As a software developer, as you can probably imagine, I really like lists. In fact, software development itself is basically creating lists in its, lists of code and lists of what features I need to add in. So fundamentally, my whole life has been driven by lists. Now, for the last 10 years, I've been running Syrinx systems, and obviously doing that, there's more and more lists, I have to be involved in. So what was going on? So it's once I started my business, I realised, there's a hell of a lot more to do than actually just doing the software development. For 25 years before this, I was quite happily just writing software, and that would be all I do. I'd come in, write software, go home. But now I had to be admin, I have to do marketing, I have to do accounts, I have to, look after the staff, even though that's me. But I'm dealing with suppliers, I'm dealing with people not paying invoices, all of that sort of stuff. The lists got bigger and bigger. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, how many of you guys use to-do lists? If you just give a quick wave. And how many of you guys actually enjoy using those to-do lists? Not so many waves going on there. And ultimately, the to-do list should actually be a tool for us. So as I was going through it, one of the issues I was coming up against, and it came to a head thanks to the pandemic and a lot more having to, a lot more looking inwards, if you like, as to what was going on. Big changes were happening. I lost a lot of clients, then started getting some new clients on board, and I recognised that I was in overwhelm. Okay, the lists were just getting bigger, nothing was getting done, and because I was in overwhelm, I didn't even have, if you like, the right mindset to actually go and do it. It was more a case of there's so much stuff to do here, I just didn't do any of it. And I think a lot of us can probably recognise that when we run our own businesses, where we get to that overwhelmed state where we just can't be bothered sometimes, and we might do something so we feel like we're working. We might be sat at the screen for 8 hours, but have we actually achieved any work, or have we just been doing some LinkedIn, just some marketing bits and pieces like that? So, the reason we started doing this was that we actually wanted control of our time. We didn't want to be told what we were doing on certain times. We wanted that control. We wanted a better work-life balance. We wanted to choose when we started and stopped working. Well, at least that was for me, and I'm guessing that that is the case for a lot of people. So I brought this as a subject. So I'm a member of a peer group called TAB, the Alternative Board, and what you can do there is you can take, if you like, an issue you have in your business along, and then other like-minded business owners become, if you like, your board, because when you work on your own, you have no one that you can actually talk to. So I took this to the board and said, look, I'm in overwhelm, I'm not getting stuff done, and the list is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was introduced to this Eisenhower matrix, which was basically, we take our to-do list and we can divide up everything on that to-do list into four, triage it into four, quadrants there. So the Eisenhower matrix there is what I've printed up there. I've slightly modified it, which I've got to the right there, but it's fundamentally the same. So everything on my to-do list is either I must do it urgently, or I must do it by the end of the week. And then you have the, do you know what, that'd be nice if I do it and it's not urgent. And I will show you the system I use to do it with, so that it becomes clearer. But fundamentally, it's amazing how many items on my to-do list are in the D not urgent thing. In fact, the majority of my to-do list is in that category. And that is actually really good. It's not as bad as it might sound. So I was using this system myself. I didn't really think much of it because it was solving my problem. I was smashing stuff, I was getting stuff done, and I was on top of things, and the overwhelm had gone. And it wasn't until someone else said they had exactly the same problem. I said, well, I'm using this, I'll show you what I use and see what you think. And they absolutely loved it. And then I thought, okay, hang on a moment, if they love it, will anyone else like this system? And I've been told that this system is so simple, it almost feels like it's not a system at all. And that, I think that's the beauty of it, because it is that simple, it works. So how do I do it? I'm only allowed to plan next week. Okay. So this morning I've planned this week based on my to-do list. Okay. And I'll go into a demo of that just in a couple of minutes. I have 1 hour slots. So each day is divided up into 1 hour slots. And a lot of people always say straight away, what if something comes up? What if something happens? So I have what I call these ad hoc gaps. They're already allocated in my weekly template. They're already there. Those ad hoc gaps are, and as an example, I have an ad hoc gap straight after this NfG meeting, because generally when I come off this meeting, I'll look on my phone, there'll be a missed call. Pretty much it happens, sort of probably about 80% of the time, there's going to be a missed call. So I've now worked out that if I allocate an ad hoc slot after this, I can then take that on. I don't have to worry about pushing anything down, up, or swapping anything over, because I've already allocated that. I've obviously put breaks in the day so that we forget to take breaks. And going back to the hour slot, people have often asked, well, why don't we do 15 minutes and things like that? The reason that I have an hour slot is because as humans, we seem to think an hour is longer than it actually is. We think we can get a lot more done in an hour than we actually can. And by doing that, when I allocate my tasks, I actually give a bit of breathing space between stuff. If I did do one of those slot things in 15 minutes time, I've got the choice. I could either then look at a C task, one of those nice to do tasks, or the way I like to do it is I like to think, what have I got coming up that I might be able to just push myself a little bit forward to make the rest of the week a bit smoother. And I find that works really well. And the other part of the system is I'm constantly acknowledging all the wins as I'm going down, because we don't reward ourselves enough for what we've done well. We're really good at criticizing ourselves and saying, I didn't do that, I didn't achieve that, but we're not acknowledging necessarily the wins. And this system will help you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out of that. And I'm hoping you guys can read that. this effectively is a demo version of what I actually use. So I've set it up in a Google Sheet. You could use Excel, you could use a piece of paper. It doesn't actually matter. The system doesn't actually matter. It doesn't rely on technology. Obviously, being a technology sort of person, that's what I've used, but it doesn't rely on it. So here's my to-do list and some examples. So, a task I had for this morning, prepare for the talk for this. So I gave that an A because it's got to be done. To me, A's are pretty much, they've got to be done at the start of the week. Because remember, we're only doing the week. We're only playing the week. I've got a couple of dev projects here. Now that one's more important than that one. So I've given it a slot of B and a slot of C. So that's a nice to do, and it doesn't mean I'm going to finish dev project A. It just means I'm going to allocate some time and move it forward. It's all about moving stuff forward. I've got a task there, I've got some invoicing tasks I've got to do, and other bits and pieces. So this is all driven by a master template. So this is what a week might look like. So I know that at the start of the week, I'm going to do some planning, then I'm going to do some accounts because I don't particularly enjoy it. Sorry, Peter. I don't particularly enjoy doing the accounts and the admin. So I'll just get that done on the Monday as well out of the way then. Then I've got my NfG slot in there all the time. And there's certain other things that always happen, that generally happen on certain days. So I put them in, so they're already taking up some time. And then effectively, when I'm ready, I run a simple Monday reset. And what that will do is that will then take that template, plonk it over next week's plan or this week's plan here. And then I only see in this week's to-do list A, B, and C tasks. So remember what I said about the D tasks? You'll never see them in this list because they're not important, they're not urgent, they're not important. They're just on that list. So I now know that I've got to allocate that really quickly. So I'll just go bang. Okay, I'm going to do that then. Dev project A, I might say, right, I'm really good at doing that sort of work on a Tuesday morning. And I'll invoice them for that after the ad hoc slot there. So that's basically how I'll then plan the week out. And I'll do that. And I know, I get to know, and I review the end of each week, what has worked and what hasn't worked with this system, so that fundamentally I'm improving it all the time. So like I said about this ad hoc thing, I didn't have it there originally after the NfG, but then realizing the pattern that was happening with the fact that I know that after this meeting, I've likely got a missed call on that phone already, and I'll need to attend that. I could put that in that slot. If it hasn't happened, that's a win. That means I could either think, okay, I'll do that early, and you know what, I might actually finish early today. So that fundamentally is how I do it. So I've got a set of rules, such as, I'll only ever have a maximum of 4 A's in my list. If I've got more than that, I have to have a word with myself. So, is this really, you might laugh at you, but effectively that's what it is. You have a word with yourself. Is that really an A? Well, no, it's the B, and then you might say, is that really a B? Does it have to be done this week? No, then make it a C. B, really, you have to take on both roles. I'm both the boss and the employee in my business. I'm both roles, and I have to have that conversation, and I do have that conversation in my head. I ask myself the question and then answer it. Because fundamentally, when I've negotiated it down to what is definitely A's and B's, that's where the overwhelm disappears, because then I realise just how I've got a nice manageable chunk of work that I can achieve. And as I'm going through it, so, if I've done my weekly planning, brilliant. I've done that. I've done me accounts and admin. I've prepped me talk. And as I tick that off, when I get to the end of the week, I've got a nice lot of wins there that I've ticked off as I go through. And so then I can obviously go through at the end of the week and start ticking stuff, moving stuff off of my to-do list, which again is another set of check. And I might well review the D items and say, oh, I don't need, I'm never going to do that. I don't even need to do that anymore. Because a lot of things that might be in my D list will often disappear. They often go. They've solved themselves. It's amazing. And I find I get just as much satisfaction ticking them off as if I'd done them, because they're off the list. They're out of my head. They're out of my headspace. And coming back to the headspace, the other thing that this works with is when you're doing stuff and something interrupts and says, right, or you interrupt yourself and say, oh yeah, that's interesting. I'll look that up. Instead of doing it, I just come in here and I'll add it to the bottom of the list. I know it's recorded, and then I can, at the end of the week or the start of next week, I can review that and decide, is it A, B, C, or D? Often or not, it might be a D, it just sits there. If it's something, yeah, that might be interesting to find something about, I might stick it as a C. So fundamentally, that is it, guys. Yeah, it's about 15 minutes. I know it's supposed to be 10 minutes, but I didn't realise I was going to I wondered if I was actually going to fill the 10 minutes, but there you go.
It's always that way, isn't it, Sean? Well done, Sean. It was really, really good and really interesting as well.